Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of TJ Hates Quitters, where we are now covering the preseason of the Challenge USA. So a little bit of a shift from what you've seen on our previous TJ Hates Quitters coverage, because we've been just like knees deep in the All-Stars 3 season. But we have double duty because we have on July 6th the first season of the Challenge USA coming up, and I have some fellow silent podcasters here with me to help break down the cast, specifically our former Survivor castaways, our current challengers. So let me introduce to you my co-host. First and foremost, you know her as the queen of Survivor knowledge. I have said on podcasts that she is like a goddamn encyclopedia. Like if there's someone she would sweep the floor with me in Survivor trivia. I just respect how much she knows and how she makes it so entertaining. But okay, Gia, I'm gonna stop blowing smoke up your ass here. Here's Gia. Hi, Gia.
Hello, and I encourage any and all podcasters to continue blowing smoke up my ass. It makes me I enjoy a good compliment, like the next gal or guy, I enjoy it. But thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about some of my favorite Survivor players, especially some of my favorite recent Survivor players. And this is just a great group to get started with and to kind of reintroduce myself to CBS The Challenge, or The Challenge in general. I've only really seen one full season of The Challenge, and I think getting some new players in, particularly some Survivor players, is just the thing I need to get reacclimated to it.
I am excited for all the knowledge you're going to bring about these people because we have some Survivor players on like the flagship MTV challenge, and now this is like strictly CBS stuff. And I mean, who better to bring in addition to one of our newest silent podcasters? We have Josh here. Josh hosts his own Survivor podcast, so he rivals Gia. We might have our own hall brawl here over in TJ Hates Quitters, but we're hoping that they actually end up being in the same alliance. The numbers are in their favor, and they don't actually have to go in. Josh, welcome to your first silent podcast, and how are you doing tonight?
Good. Yeah. And I definitely would not be taking on Gia because I know that would be a bad decision in Survivor knowledge and trivia. So I'm just going to try to, ally with her, not to go against her here. But yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Very excited to talk about the challenge. I'm a newbie to the challenge, but very excited to see some Survivor cast there because yes, I am a Survivor fanatic, super fan. And I'm excited to see how some of these people do.
I am also excited for your insight on these players too. I know you've spent the last 2 to 4 hours maybe watching at least the challenge trailer, and we're ready with our background knowledge. We're good. We're gonna just hit the ground running. So before we get into it, I would love for them to let you guys know where they're at. I know Gia said she's watched one full season. In terms of their challenge experience, so you know that why they're here and what they're about. So Josh, we know Gia has watched one. Have you watched any at all?
I have watched 0 full seasons of the challenge, but
perfect.
Once you asked me to come on here, I did get on the YouTubes and look up some highlights from past seasons, tried to understand the rules, but from what my research shows me that the rules kind of change from season to season. So I think
round to round, it's okay. Crazy.
Yeah, that was a little confusing to me as I was trying to get into it. So you might have to explain that to me offline better. I'm sure people watching a challenge podcast are like, oh, this guy should know the rules. But I genuinely am a little confused there. That's probably the most confusing part of my research, but I think I got the gist of it. It seems like, if I have a formula for what it takes to be good at the challenge, in both the game and in being a good character, it seems like you got to be physically athletic. Seems like there's a lot of strength-based things, but I see a few puzzles and stuff as well. And then you just got to be a fun, dramatic, messy person, or have some good, charisma, TV to TV talent to bring you back. I mean, it's kind of the reality TV game show formula for any kind of show, but so I think I get the gist of the challenge.
So to give you both a little bit of insight, which Josh hit on a bit, is that like each season the rules change, and sometimes within a season they'll change the rules. So it's hard for me to sit here and be like, here's what you should be analyzing these players on, because for example, in this All-Star season that we're watching right now, it started off where there's a daily challenge, and now there's a daily challenge no matter what. Like the challenge is, it has a daily challenge, and those challenges could be anything from like we've seen them stand on the end of a plank 110 feet in the air, and they have to like swivel these cubes to make a correct math equation, to like a 3-piece or like a 3-part challenge where like 2 people get eliminated every leg. Like it runs the gamut. So it's hard to tell you like what type of challenge they'll do, but like an example of things you'll see is the last place man and the last place woman automatically go into the elimination, and then there will be people in power. So at like the beginning of this All-Star season, the top 3 men and the top 3 women made up the authority, and they voted in who would go against like the losers from that day. But then halfway through the season, TJ mixed it up and is like, okay, only the top man and top woman make up the authority, and it's no longer the last place person goes in. Instead, whoever gets voted into the authority or into the elimination, they call someone down of who they want to go against. So like within one season, there's already 2 different ways of how you can end up in there, which really makes the point of like how important your social game is. Like you can be a physical threat, and that's great and all, but really like the best way to win the challenge is to not go into eliminations. If you can avoid eliminations, you obviously can't get eliminated during the regular part, and then the final, like you just got to be the best of who's left. And so I wanted to give you that little bit of background knowledge in case that shapes any of your opinions, but I think we should just dive in like character by character here and see what you think about them. On the top of my list, and not for any reason besides that I think it went alphabetically by first name, because I don't want to make it seem like this person is my favorite Survivor player coming in, is Ben Driebergen. So before I ask either of you, I just want to say when I saw that this guy was on the challenge, I was like, what are we doing here? What? Do not tarnish my favorite TV show by bringing in Ben Driebergen as one of the 8 Survivor contestants. Out of 40 seasons of Survivor, you can't pick someone better than Ben Driebergen to be on my TV again. But then I thought about it, and it's like, oh, well, he was kind of like a comp beast or whatever. So anyway, just want to put it out there that he's first alphabetically, not in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, you said comp beast. He wasn't even a comp beast. He lost almost all the challenges in his season to like a middle-aged mom who kicked his butt like on all the challenges. So
I thought he like won out, or no, he kept finding idols.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm trying to say your surprise. No, your surprise was like mine, but amplified. I was like, this guy's not even known for challenge. I mean, like, yeah. So I don't know. We can get into it, but yeah, Ben, definitely not my favorite Survivor player.
Get into it, Josh. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I'm sure I can guess that Gia has the exact opposite sentiment as I hold to Ben. So you can defend Ben, Gia, after I go. But
I have to defend Ben. Wait a minute.
No, Ben, I mean, honestly, this is the biggest issue I have with Ben being on the show, The Challenge, is the last time we saw him on reality television, which was in Winners at War, season 40 of Survivor, he gave up. He ended the game saying he didn't want to win. And we'll have to get to the Sarah Lacina of it all, because she's also on The Challenge, and that is the person that he basically tanked his entire game to give a shot for her to win. So the fact that they're both on this together is interesting. I bet the only reason why he's on here is because Sarah is on here, if I had to guess. And so Ben is he's gotten in trouble. People don't like his political views. I mean, it's not like he's the most outspoken person with his political views, but I mean, it's kind of out there that he is not the most, socially inclusive minded person. So that's another issue, but yeah, Ben is, he's there. He's going to be on the show. So Gia, what do you have to say? Tell me all your pro Ben takes.
You know me.
The pressure.
If there's one thing I'm known for, it's my pro Ben takes. So, we could be here a while, everybody. No, Ben is not my favorite winner. He is not my favorite pick of this cast, to put it nicely. And I'm just not a particular fan of his win in Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. But, I wanted to give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt going into Winners at War, because that Final Four fire-making twist that I hate was not his fault. So I was trying to be very reasonable. But yeah, his game in Winners at War very much frustrated me. It felt like he was more of like a passenger for other winners to move forward in the game. And it was just kind of frustrating for me personally to watch. However, on a positive note, I think like how you were explaining earlier, that, the challenge has a lot of different rules and depends a lot on physicality. And, I think that could potentially be more his element. Maybe the elements of Survivor that were a lot harder for him aren't going to be as difficult of a challenge or an obstacle for him, I would say. And especially with a huge portion of this cast being Survivor players, I don't know what terms he is on with a lot of these Survivor players, but I'm assuming that it's not all bad blood between all of them, or how many of them he knows outside of the game. It's hard to measure with a lot of the later contestants, like the people competing within the last few seasons. So I think that this could potentially be a really good story for Ben, based on how he ended his Winners at Wars game, going into a season where some of the things that I think he didn't excel at may not be as big of an issue for him.
Yeah. I worry about, you talk about like social aspect being an important thing. I think especially if other people are aware of his, again, political views or his social faux pas that he made in kind of the 2 seasons that he was in, I think that there's a lot of people who would probably just like want to target him. So if you've never seen Survivor, if you want like a 1-sentence summary of Ben, I would say he's like, a conservative cowboy who is not well beloved by most Survivor fans.
Do you think that, well, let me actually backtrack. So right before you guys joined the podcast, I was doing some math and was counting to 28, specifically how many from each show. And like Gia said, like we've got 8 survivors. There's also 8 people from Love Island, 9 people from Big Brother, and then 3 from Amazing Race. Do you think Ben can insulate himself within, if it comes down to like Big Brother versus Survivor, or like Love Island versus Survivor, and then the other ones kind of like split and go their own way? Like, do you think Ben has enough social capital within at least the other Survivor players to like insulate himself with for safety from those other ones? Or do we see Ben being one of the first survivors challenged in going into an elimination?
I just think that once the other people see that he's out there, and if they've heard anything about him, I think they're going to want to try to get rid of him just as like an easy target, as somebody who I think, does not seem to, he didn't like cause a lot of fights on his seasons by any means, but I think just if you, again, know who he is, you're probably just like, this is an easy person just to send, out for the elimination challenge.
Yeah, I just feel like people aren't going to be particularly worried about him. And I know sometimes that can mean that players will want to face off against that person. Mm-hmm. But depending on what the rules of CBS The Challenge are. But I don't know. It could work that this makes Ben kind of an easy early boot, or this could mean he lasts longer in the game. So I'm not really sure what to make of Ben or his chances of going far in the game.
Yeah, I think it'll be tough because, again, we don't know the rules for elimination and like how you end up there. A lot of the times, at least in like MTV's challenge, the first however many weeks are people going after what they'll call layups, which are the people that they like definitely think that they can take out in the challenge so they don't have to worry about being eliminated. I don't know if anybody would really consider Ben a layup. He's like a pretty big dude. So I could see like what you guys said, he kind of might even like float by a little bit because no one wants to challenge him and potentially lose to him. So it'll be interesting. I guess it'll just depend on how people end up in the elimination. But so the conclusion we can come to about Ben is we don't think that the social component of his game is going to get him far.
No.
Yeah,
But,
I don't think so.
So do you think layups will be a conversation in this season since it's not anyone that's been on the challenge before?
I mean, my fingers are crossed in hoping that we've got some fans of the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I get that it's like the same host, and in the preview we saw some of the same like mainstays of the eliminations, like the hall brawl, which I don't know if you guys saw it. It was like the hallway and you have two people running at each other. That is like hall brawl is one of the best moments of the fucking season. Like when you see hall brawl, you're hoping it's like a showdown. And so I don't like I'm hoping that there's people on there. It's just like how Survivor has gotten better when we've had the super fans play, right? Like the people who know the show, that know the game, bring a different element to it. I obviously don't think that a lot of these people will be super fans or fans in general, but if we can get a few people to kind of like guide them in the direction of like why so many people consider this America's fifth sport, like I would love it. I think it just comes down to like, do we have any challenge fans or not? And then otherwise, I think like we'll see some Survivor-ish gameplay infiltrate and some Big Brother-ish gameplay infiltrate. I mean, Love Island, you just go and try to like get on Instagram, on Instagram, so I don't know how that works. And like Amazing Race, you're jumping out of planes and shit. So I don't know what they're going to be doing, but I can see more Big Brother and Survivor gameplay taking over this version of the challenge than we've seen on the MTV one. Brother challenge, I think they'll say that there's been since more and more Big Brother people have been joining the MTV challenge, so we'll see. But we have a nice little comment here. Kayla from the Amazing Race is a huge fan of the challenge. Thank you, DM Rocks. So maybe we'll see Kayla really kind of like influencing people in at least happens in MTV's The Challenge. I don't know. I'm interested to see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any last words, Ben?
No, not particularly.
We're good.
I think we'll have to bring him up again one more time when we talk about Sarah. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll come into conversation. Yes.
All right, well, next alphabetically by first name is season 41 player Danny McCray. And in the couple episodes I watched, I was a fan. And I am very interested to hear what you guys think of Danny because if I recall, it's a former NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
This is what I like to see on my challenge.
Yes.
Gia, what do we know about?
So straight up, Danny was my favorite player from season 41. So I really enjoyed him for the time that he was in the game. He made it pretty far I'm sorry to spoil Survivor 41 for everyone, but like you've had your chance to not be spoiled. He made it to 6, which was pretty good. And I feel like this is a player that if he had made it to the end, a couple things went his way that didn't go his way at that point, like he would have won. Like he was a very likable player. I really enjoyed Danny, and I really didn't expect to as well. The professional athletes always are kind of like a big question mark to me because I think especially in Survivor Past, they would cast a lot of professional athletes that had a very strong personality, but strong meaning like rude or stubborn or just a lot of like very cocky behavior, or they would pick players that had controversial past. So that is something that has kind of dampened my feelings on a lot of professional athletes. But Danny did not have this problem. He was a huge team player, very supportive from what we saw during his time on Luvu, which was the tribe that did not go to tribal council once during the pre-merge. So it wasn't just because of Danny that they didn't have to go to tribal council, but an NFL player, you're gonna, you have a physical advantage over a lot of the other players in that season. And he had a really good mind for the game that I really enjoyed. I think like as an NFL player, he had a strategy going in about targeting players that seemed to be like more of the smart strategic type. So, and for him, it wasn't just because of this keep the tribe strong mentality. It was because he wanted to push the target off of himself. And as someone that is not a physical player in any way, shape, or form, this was a strategy and a thought process that I really respected, and I really liked his thought process on how to address the game. So I'm a big fan of Danny all around. I was very sad when he got voted out right before the finale, but oh, what a player. And I'm so happy that we are getting him back again. This is one of the players that I'm most excited for. I'm a huge Danny fan.
Yes. Yeah. If I have one Survivor player who I think will do the best, I think Danny is my pick. I don't know if we're supposed to save that to the end, but just putting it all out there right now. Yeah. Gia, you hit on so many good points there. And I knew you were a big Danny fan, so I was excited for you to get to talk about him. One thing that I'll add too is he this is kind of a behind the scenes kind of famous story now, is that he kind of got into it with Jeff during the Survivor season about kind of a twist and rule. And, they kind of showed it on the show. And then apparently like behind the scenes, people have talked about it being much longer. But what people really respected about him kind of pushing back on Jeff lying to survivors and kind of taking away immunity for the first time ever really in the show's history. And Danny was the one person that everybody pointed to that he was really like upset about it and kind of like spoke for all of them and pushed back on the twist. And I just think that like I don't know exactly the production of the challenge and all that goes into it, but I just think that he was able to like fight for things like that and get heated about causes that like, seem reasonable. And then with everybody else on the tribe, he seemed like everybody really liked him. And so the things that got him like worked up were not things that put him in bad social like standing in like the tribe in the show. So I just think like he also was not like the greatest NFL player of all time by any means. Like I don't really even know if he was like a starter for like the Cowboys when he played. Like I don't know anybody that has like a Danny McCray jersey on their back. But I think that that's also like the kind of like right like level of like stardom or like super stardom that you want on like a show like this. Somebody who's still like hungry, for the win, not like somebody who's like resting on their laurels and just like kind of like, okay, I'm out here just to like as like a cameo type thing. Like I think he would really try to win, like I know he did with Survivor. So yeah, I'm a big Danny fan as well. I think he seems like by all accounts a great guy who everybody really got along with, respected, thought was really smart. And then of course the physical abilities, like G already highlighted, like he was on one of the most successful tribes in Survivor history as far as challenges go. So I think again, he'd be my pick for Survivor players to go the farthest.
Oh, yeah. The fact that he yelled at Jeff is another reason why he was my favorite, because that twist was stupid. And I'm glad someone said something to his face about it. And he still got a good edit. I feel like they would have buried him in the edit if it was anyone else, but not Danny, because he was right. And we can thank him for the future changes that we got. So I was very happy about that. Yes.
Yeah.
We stand.
No. If he ever yells at TJ will not hesitate to yell at him. TJ will.
I don't care. I would put money on Danny still. I'm sorry. Like that's how big a stan I am.
Like, I don't doubt that, but TJ won't sit there and take it. TJ tried to fight someone twice his size, given it was like years ago, but got in some dude's face and was like calling him a motherfucker and everything, who like started yelling at him first. So I would love to see him yell at TJ. I would love to see what TJ would say back. TJ takes no shit from anybody. So
I would love to see Danny yell at another host. That would just be the dream. Oh, I love it. Okay. I hope so.
The reason this podcast TJ Hates Quitters is because when somebody quits, like TJ goes off on them. He left off a bit as like mental health has become more important, but seasons, if you like TJ, you know how little he thought of you. Like you are the dirt beneath his shoes, and so Danny will like go at TJ, but TJ like it's a walk in the park. TJ will verbally come back at you. So, I'm cutting out my wife.
Oh yeah.
Anybody watch right now?
Yeah, you're breaking up right now.
You guys have to host the show, so
it's okay.
Good thing we've seen so much about it.
That's okay. We will just talk about Danny for another like
the rest
minutes.
of time.
It's great. Yes, it's okay. There's other Survivor players as well, but no. Also, the one thing I'm not worried about is I don't see Danny quitting, and he might if he doesn't like the rules, he will let you know about it. Or the disregard of rules, he will let you know about it. But I am more than confident that he will not be quitting. Like that is one thing that I am 100% confident on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely excited to see him play because my favorite player in the challenge are the ones that can not only win it solely, but also can bring it actively. We don't tend to see like any struggle with in terms of men being asked on this show. Sometimes for women cast on this show, it's hard to get women who can be like athletic and entertaining. So I am very excited to then bring up this next person because I'm wondering what you think she'll do in Desi Williams. What do we think Desi is going to be in terms of a challenger on our first season?
I really like Desi. I enjoyed her a lot. She's on Ben's season, actually. That was her first season. So this was something that I'm very excited to see her play again. And I'm hoping we get to see her. I don't want to say come out of her shell because that's not really what it is. But I don't think the edit gave us as much Desi as I would have liked. Like, telling the story of the season from her perspective, which I really would have liked. And I'm hoping that, especially if she goes further, we will get to see more stories from Desi's perspective, because by all accounts, she seems like a very fun person, a very strong player. I don't remember a ton about heroes, healers, and hustlers as much as maybe some of the other seasons, but I did really enjoy the time that we got with Desi. She was like a middle of the road player. She left, I think, very early in merge, if not was the merge boot. And she was a fun person. And I'm glad that this is someone that they brought back and hopefully have some more time to get to know her and have her come into her own, or at least be given the space for us to get to know her a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Desi by far of all the 8 players is like kind of the least successful survivor of reading off all these names as far as people who were on the show, were memorable, who did well. And I'm not saying that's anything against Desi, because I think she actually, if I remember correctly, she was targeted at the merge as a merge boot because she was such a threat. So she was kind of the easy consensus person to take out early in the merge. I believe she was a mayor of Ponderosa, the first member of the jury in her season, if not the second. And the reason why was because she just, was clearly somebody who was going to be a threat with the challenges. So I think like athleticism wise, she's got it. Now I'm also excited, like you're saying, to see more of her personality and things like that as well. And I think we lost Kari here, but
she's coming back. She's coming back. I love a good mayor of Ponderosa too. Like, what an honor. What a level of prestige to be a part of.
Yeah, I think Desi would be really interesting. Like, I mean, I know in Survivor seasons, the kind of lesser known female that gets brought back is the person you always have to look out to win. So maybe it'll be this type, same thing with the challenge where she will be overlooked, and then next thing you know, she's like there at the end.
Yeah, I would not be shocked at a Desi win. Like, there's a couple people that I feel like if they did win the whole thing, especially on a format like the challenge, that I would be shocked if they won. But Desi is one of those people that I would not be surprised at all if she wins, and I would not be surprised if she goes far.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, she's a physical therapist. She is obviously in shape. And like, that's the only thing that like, even if you don't, you might know like that she wasn't the most successful survivor or whatever, but like, if you just look at her, you're like, this is a person who I don't want to go up against. So that's probably her biggest hurdle to overcome as far as just her threat level, because she's clearly just in an incredible shape. And is somebody who just optically looks like somebody who could win a show that's all about challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So historically in the challenge at the beginning, and I mean, kind of similar to Survivor, right? Where like you're just looking for a reason to put someone in that's like an easy justification. Do we have any concerns about her social game? Might she like get too drunk at the club one night? Because at least in our challenge over on MTV, they have, it goes, you have the daily challenge, and then that night they go to the club or they go out and they drink, and then the next day is the challenge elimination, right? So
yeah,
do we have to worry about Desi at all? Do we have to worry about, because we already know why we might have to worry about Ben. We think Danny's got the social game, but we know that he might get a little mouthy. He's proven it. But like, what do we need to be concerned about Desi?
So from what we've seen from Desi, I don't think we have to be worried about her. I get like Survivor, there's not really much drinking on there except for in a reward. So we haven't seen any issues like that with Desi. But on that season in particular, there were a lot of, some were hotheads, but a lot of like flamboyant characters, I guess I would say. And Desi was always a very level-headed person.
Yeah.
Like, she might be aligned with the flamboyant character, but she herself was much more calm, even-toned, level-headed. So if she sticks with how she was on her season of Survivor, I really don't think we have an issue based on what we've seen of Desi.
Yeah, that's my read too. She just kind of exudes discipline and like steadiness, like you're saying. So I don't think that's an issue, but who knows? Some people get a drink in their hand and their personality changes quickly. They let loose and it's a whole different story. So we could, like, I mean, just as we're talking about, we'll have to see what her personality looks like, because we really didn't get to see much of her, unfortunately, like her personality at all on Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. So it'll be a little bit of a different story, I think, when we get to see more of her, off challenges.
But like, just based on what we saw, I would say like she seemed like very like a likable person and very even keel, but like that was probably part of the reason why she was voted out when she was.
Yeah. No, she was definitely voted out because she's a big threat. Yeah. No question.
Yeah, that's like one of the I think key differences in Survivor and the challenge is like you can almost go unchallenged if you're seen as a big threat, because like, why am I going to call you into the elimination when I know I'm going to lose to you? Let me try and go against someone who I have a better chance against. But then you sometimes see like, okay, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to at least try and take out the person I think is most likely to win. Because then if I come back, I've eliminated the biggest threat. And like, it's now a much more even opportunity for people to win. And we see both of that. And the other reason why I like the challenge a bit is because, like, I mean, if you think of the way that sometimes the vote before, like, tribal council changes because of a last-minute plan or whatever, someone can do something stupid hammered on the challenge and change the whole trajectory of the season. You know, it just adds a different element than we get on any of these other shows. So I love a little bit of a mess. It brings in all the dynamics for me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about this next person because even Domenick himself recently tweeted, like, they can't not mention Wendell when they bring me up. We are getting Domenick without his better half on a reality TV show. And so
I'm kind of so sad about the fact that we're not getting both of them.
we thought that we were getting Wendell on 2 seasons ago of the challenge.
Okay.
I think.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He was
You're right.
like
There was a rumor
rumored,
about
and
it.
then he
Yeah.
was like, "Bro, I've been filming like HGTV shit. Like I'm with like
Yeah,
I'm building things out of wood."
He's got that home and garden channel
Yeah.
money. He doesn't need that challenge.
Right. And so I was really disappointed because I think that Wendell could be really good on the challenge. But I am excited to see Domenick on his own and how he maneuvers this, because like to me, he doesn't strike me as like the most athletic. So seeing him on here was a bit of like, huh. Like, I'm not mad that you're here. I'm a little confused that you're here, but I'm not mad about it because I think he can bring an interesting dynamic to this game.
Yeah.
And so I am intrigued to hear what you think about Domenick and his capability in something like the challenge. Josh, start me off.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just like, he's kind of old. Like
I told you, CT, the last winner of the last 2 seasons winners, 41 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dom's, probably in that range, 40, 45. I don't really know his age.
I'll Google.
Yeah, do a quick Google. 43. I bet he's 43. He's got a family.
Oh, good job. 43. He was born on Halloween.
Yeah, had no idea.
Ooh,
I was
Halloween baby. I love Halloween.
Maybe, the Halloween birthday kind of bumps him up though a little bit, a little spooky. Yeah, he's got the
Halloween is my favorite holiday, so I appreciate a Halloween festivities.
Okay. Yes. I think Dom is, I think he is pretty athletic. It's hard because we saw him with Wendell, and between the two of them, they just absolutely dominated the season, and they kind of traded off who had immunities, who had the idols, who was pulling social moves. I mean, so it really is, they worked so in tandem. When we saw Wendell out there, he didn't do quite as well without Dom, but he also had, winners at War. He had a lot bigger, threats to play with than the people that were on their season originally, Ghost Island. So I think as far as you're talking about social strategy and stuff that comes into the challenge, I think Dom is got to be top tier Survivor player as far as his ability to like think through different moves. And so anything that has to do with the social strategy part of like, do I send this person, like into the elimination challenge with myself or whatever, those little small moments. I think that I have full faith in him to make the optimal decision. I will say though that Dom definitely has one regret coming out of Survivor, and that's that he didn't, go and make fire against Wendell and eliminate him at the final 4 and put himself into a challenge to take out that big threat in a moment where he could have secured the victory for himself. And so I wonder if we'll see him talk about that. I wonder if that'll influence his decision making. Because I'm not going to say it's haunted him, because I know him and Wendell are buddies, and I'm sure, like he doesn't have that much regrets, but it probably haunts him a little bit that he didn't take, like his game into his own hands at that one moment when we had all the power, and he could have just like put himself into the Survivor equivalent of a hall brawl, which is the fire making challenge. And
Sir, as a challenge fan, you trying to equate those two things is not it, because a lot of people hate the fire making challenge, and there's not a goddamn soul on this challenge loving planet who hates hall brawl. That is for sure.
The problem with the fire making challenge isn't the challenge itself. It's that it just is a completely different round of Survivor than the entire game. It would be like the challenge as if all of a sudden you're doing all these challenges, and then you get to the final 4 and you take a vote as to who's going to go home at that point instead of having a challenge, right? It's the opposite in Survivor. So and also watching people, run through a hall and all that stuff is much more exciting than watching people rub metal together to make fire. But Gia, do you think that it's going to like affect his like, a mentality going into the challenge, the regret he might carry from not like, taking like, that moment into his hands and just taking on Wendell?
No. First of all, Final 4 fire making is stupid. And second of all, I hope that's not his one regret, because like he could have lost and gotten 4th place money, and instead he's got 2nd place money, which is far better in my opinion. But I hate that. John, like just have a better social game than you did last time so that like one other person votes for you. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I feel like that should be the regret over not doing fire making. Ugh, that's dumb. But I'm sorry if Dom's listening to this. But yeah, like, don't regret not doing Final Four fire making. Come on now. But I mean, one thing's for sure, with Dom in here, we're definitely going to be entertained, because that was one thing that I remember Dom particularly excelled at, was his confessionals and just being an overall very entertaining character on Survivor. And he was really like, if Wendell was like the brains of the operation, Dom was the face of it. Like, he was the person that Survivor pushed to the front as having like the main narrative, which is super problematic because he wasn't like, this is only our fourth Black winner when Wendell won, but I digress. But Dom himself was a very entertaining character and was a lot of fun to watch. And, you know, like, even with some of the feuds that he had throughout the season were incredibly entertaining. So it was just great to see him and Wendell both get to the end together and end up in such a close vote like the one that they did. I don't know, though. I feel like I don't know what to expect from Dom. I mean, Ghost Island happened a few years ago now. It's not like the Survivor 41 people that had about a year break, not even a year break between filming Survivor 41 and CBS The Challenge. So I don't know what to expect from him. I feel like he's had time to really like process everything that happened. He got a very good edit, so I feel like there isn't too much in the way of like regrets of like how he was portrayed. I think he did pretty well his first time. So I'm hoping he actually sticks with a lot of the things that he did in his first time around and the things that made him such a memorable character. Like, look at any Second Chances 2 fantasy ballot that people make. Domenick's up there in spades, you know, like everyone wants to see Domenick play again. Now we finally get to see Domenick play again. I think that this is a really good pick. I don't know how long he's going to last, but I certainly enjoy this, and I know we will be entertained at the very least. And I don't remember Dom being any slouch or anything like that. And again, like it's been a few years, but I think Dom will be able to hold his own personally.
Yeah. He's not known as like some challenge beast for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could look at him. He's a big guy. He's, he's athletic. I just worry he's just kind of old. I don't know. I just feel like if anyone's going to get injured, I'm just watching these highlight videos on YouTube, prepping for this podcast, and I'm just kind of worried about him and Tyson, who we'll talk about later, who's also, in his 40s. And I'm like, this just looks like they're going to like hurt their knees or something, doing these challenges.
I think the biggest thing to be afraid of when you do the challenges is the water, because I think people aren't as afraid of water as they should be until they hit it hard the first time. And there's so many daily challenges that they do elevated 20, 30, 40 feet above water, and they just drop them. And I'm like, someone's going to die. That's how Tommy went out on last season. He got a concussion in like one of the water challenges. Michelle cut up her face. Like, we've seen a lot of people go home in those types of challenges. And I don't know if like age is the factor as much as it is like H2O is just going to get you. So I understand what you're saying. It's hard because when I think of the challenge, like there's things like Hall Brawl, which are incredibly physical. But then like this last week on All Stars 3, the elimination challenge, the only safety gear they wore was if they were wearing shorts, they allowed them to wear knee pads, because they did this like maze where they had a baton that had 3 different size stars. And when you like got to the smallest star, you can pull your baton out a little bit. Then you'd go to the medium star, pull it out a bit. And then the large star, take your baton out. And then you had to hit a gold spray painted soccer ball, kind of like a pool stick, like on the ground into like a mouse hole about 10 to 15 feet away. So like there was no physicality to that whatsoever. It was a carnival game. And it's like Domenick could go home on that, or Domenick could go home because he's old and he just tried to do something that like physically is beyond him. And so it's interesting because like I could see all of it happening. But I do agree with you guys because like Dom and Wendell were just fun to watch, and it'll be fun to see Dom without Wendell. I'm interested to see what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I feel like of any of the players that are coming back, except maybe Tyson, that they'll see it as like, you know, I'm getting my check for being here. Like I have an appearance fee. Here we are. Anything else is like bonus in terms of it. Like I'm going to go out swinging. And I could see Dom being like that. Like not holding back. I'm going to take my chances. At least that's what I'm hoping for, because I think that he could be really entertaining in the process of doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
We are on to another Survivor winner. And you know what? I'm just gonna let you guys introduce her. Sarah Lacina. So
Yeah.
Josh, I know that you had brought her up earlier. Why don't you continue to speak about Sarah Lacina?
Sure. Yeah, she is the most beloved Survivor player of all time by super fans. I know she's the number one person Gia wants to see back on both the challenge and also Survivor. So
we talked about this in depth.
No, I just it's hard. It's really hard to see her back. I just don't think anybody really was clamoring for more Sarah Lacina content on their TVs. I know. Yeah, I mean, she was a very, very, very good Survivor player. That's definitely like, you know, something that nobody can deny. She is somebody who made it very far in her two most recent seasons. She won, you know, Game Changers, which was against, you know, All Stars. And then she was one fire making challenge away from winning again in Winners at War. So Sarah is somebody who has her probably most famous quote is that she has a phenomenal social game. And I think that she does. And I think that in, you know, again, in a bubble, I think that she can get along with people pretty well. I just think, again, her political views are pretty out there as well. And they're controversial. So I just think if anybody knows of her, they're going to potentially, like, I think if you're just like, oh, okay, I can take out somebody at this point. If I'm going to be eliminated, might as well just go out trying to take her out at this point. I just think that especially when we look at some of these Big Brother players who have, you know, other probably opposing political views. I'm really interested to see like the cookout people. You know, I don't really know much about Big Brother, but I know about the cookout, and I'm just interested to see them. You know, I think there's 2 or 3 members of that season, right, or that alliance.
I think there's 4. I think 4 of the
okay.
6 are there. It just no Hannah and no Derek F. Thankfully.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
and I didn't watch Big Brother. I just know who the 6 of them are.
Yeah.
Too. I followed last season on Twitter. It's the only season I didn't mute in a long time.
I mute all Big Brother content from my timeline. I don't care about Big Brother. I don't know about Big Brother, but I know about the cookout because I know like about, you know, I heard people complaining about it. And then I heard, you know, obviously the good stuff as well. And I'm just very interested to see, you know, those nights at the bar with the cookout members and Sarah Lacina and Ben Driebergen there as well. I mean, I can't see that as a recipe for success for Sarah Lacina in this game, but Gia, any other thoughts?
So I'm also not a huge fan of Sarah Lacina for all the reasons that you have already stated. And I don't know, her win just isn't the most fun for me. I think it doesn't help that she was on Game Changers, which was just not a particularly fun season for me with everything that had happened during that season. But I'm trying to think. And like, honestly, the things that I found least enjoyable about Sarah were a lot of like what happened in Winners at War or Cagayan, where I felt like she was just very much like assisting other players in their win rather than being a cutthroat player herself personally. So that's just a couple things that I am not a huge fan of in Sarah in particular. That being said, I am super happy that she is not coming back with Tony, because that is honestly when she is the least interesting to me. Because like she just kind of like assists Tony with his win basically in both times that they competed together, and it's just for me it's not entertaining television. And yeah, she was like a fire making challenge away from getting to the final 3 again, but it just wasn't entertaining to me, and like being an entertaining character is important to me. So like that is just my personal take on Sarah as a Survivor player. But I am happy that she is going to be coming without Tony, so hopefully a little more time to play for herself. And I know she does have Ben there and they're close, but I'm not like, I don't know. I feel like that's not really a detriment to Sarah. I think that will actually help Sarah a lot to have someone like Ben there. So I'm interested to see where this goes for Sarah. I think she has what it takes to win. She is a very physically capable player and also a strategically capable player. And I don't see her having really any issues with the challenge. This might be kind of the game that is suited for her. And despite, like everything that I said, like I wouldn't be surprised if she goes far, and I wouldn't be surprised if I find her more entertaining now that her other half, her other Survivor half is not going to be there. So we'll have to wait and see. I will say, though, they finally got a really nice picture of her with these cast photos. That photographer knew what she was that photographer knew what they were doing. She's smiling. Her hair is on point. So, like, good for them, because she she just has like a genuine smile in her pictures finally. And she looks great. So kudos to the CBS photography department for putting these cast photos together, because everyone looked stunning.
I have a couple of things I thought of while you guys were talking. First of all, I did not even think of Tony potentially being on the challenge until the last 3 minutes. And in all honesty, I would love to see him. I would love it. I would
watch Tony on the challenge 100%. That would be very entertaining.
He would be so, if not good, at least good TV. Oh my gosh. I hope that this season goes well and they're like, hey, Tony, did you see how much fun people had? Come on. just come have a good time for a little bit. Wow. That I'm actually almost speechless at the fact of thinking about this for the first time. Second is, I don't know if either of you heard the story or if I'm just making it up, or maybe I read it on Reddit or something, because I do reread it a lot. Did Sarah Lacina, after the vote for Game Changers, as soon as it was done, she put on a MAGA hat and everyone was like, oh, did we just give $1 million to a fucking Trump supporter? That happened, correct?
Yeah, I think it happened in the green room, because they film everything out on the island except for they don't reveal the vote, and then months later they do a live taping in LA where they do a studio audience, and so when they're waiting for that, I think this is Ozzy's account, and it hasn't ever been discredited, so I'm pretty sure it's it's legit. Is that in that green room? I think is when she donned the MAGA hat. And so she didn't wear it on camera on stage, but she's behind the scenes, and when they've already voted for her, so when she can finally kind of come out with her true colors or whatever. And she did it as a joke, but it's just a bad joke.
Jokes are
funny, Sarah.
Jokes are supposed to be funny.
She certainly won't be getting far because of her sense of humor. That will not have contributed to any success that she has in this season.
And that's what I was gonna say is entertainment wise, I mean, of the 40 winners we've had in Survivor, I think that she's in that 35 to 40 range as far as bottom tier entertainment value wise. She's just somebody who her Survivor game is hard to show, because it's just kind of boring. She's able to get along with people, and again, being a cop is a really big advantage, I think, in Survivor. Your situational awareness, your ability to go without sleep, things like that are you train for, are what helped her win, but it's just kind of boring stuff. And so then I think also, so while she might not be the most entertaining, as far as her physicality goes, it's a no-brainer why they cast her on the show, because not only again is she a cop and she has that background, but she also is like a kickboxer. Like she's done MMA. She did a thing where she did a marathon in 6 continents in like 6 days or something, like something crazy like that, where she like flew to every continent in like a week and did a marathon every day or something. So
that's my literal nightmare. I can't think of many things that I would want to do less than what you just said.
So I mean that's same here, and that's why I will never be on the challenge, and why it makes perfect sense that Sarah is on the challenge. Like I think as far as female competitors on Survivor, she's definitely up there as far as people. It's like physical strength, capabilities. I think she's top tier for sure.
The last thing I want to ask about Sarah before we move on is, and like you both have kind of talked about it, but it was like adjacent to it in my opinion. We obviously like know that she's boring to watch, right? But do you think that there is something about her social game that they just don't air or we don't see, which like has gotten her far? And then my like reason for asking this is there's of 28 players, only 8 are Survivor players. Like, yeah, that's about 30% of the cast. However, do we think that she can gel with like Love Islanders who are 15-ish years younger than her and are far more diverse than she is or like probably even wants to be around? Like, not to assume, but same thing with like the Big Brother players. Like, she's older than a lot of them and doesn't have a lot in common with them. Like, but we've seen her excel in social situations despite what we know about her. Like, what don't we see that makes Sarah Lacina good at social strategy games?
Honestly, I think Sarah is actually a very likable person, and it's just like we are shaped by like what we know about her outside of the game, and the fact that like we are not taking the game moment by moment the same way that the players that are actually in the game with Sarah are. I think she's probably a very nice, likable person, and that's why she does well in these games. She had people from all walks of life in Game Changers thinking that they were closely aligned with her and that it was going to be their group going to the end. And I don't think that's an accident. I don't think Sarah benefited from other people's mistakes or anything like that. I think Sarah is just like a very smart, capable, and probably likable player, and that's why people gravitate towards her. I think the fact that she has a reputation for being loyal to the people she's closest with, like Tony, helps her a lot. And I just personally, like, I do think that Sarah is probably a very nice, kind person outside of the game. It is just like the things that we know about her, like what we get from the edit, mars like what is probably actually happening with Sarah as a player.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think the issue I just think is that there's going to be somebody that knows that her, again, her political views. And I think that's going to be enough to like, because I know that once that's kind of known amongst the crew, I think that that's probably just going to put a sour taste in people's mouths and like make it so that she's probably, no one's going to be rooting for her to win once they kind of are aware of those things. Like Gia's saying, the things that we know about her, I think what they'll experience of her, if it was in a bubble, which is what, the first time you play Survivor, it is, these are, 18, 20 strangers on an island together, you can get away with a lot. And then, she could again the second time before things were really known. And then it's just, so I think that she, in general, is very, very good. As soon as she opens her mouth, she's from the Midwest. She sounds very Midwestern, like, just very, I don't know, like very nice Midwestern woman. But I just think that once those political views, someone out there is going to know what the views she holds. So I just think that she'll kind of be ostracized. That's what I predict.
I've thought of 2 more things that I want to bring up. Not to like, they're all like Sarah Lacina adjacent, I guess. Something that happens sometimes in the challenge is at the final, let's say it's like a final 4, so 4 men, 4 women, they'll be like, okay, you have a different partner for each leg. So there'll be 4 legs of the final. So like male A and female A work together. And then the next one, it'll be like male A and female B and so on. Like you have to work with everyone. And So a lot of times, like, the strong men will protect the strong women because they don't want to run with someone who isn't good. And similarly, the strong women will protect the strong men, or the men that more so actually the women tend to protect the men who like are respectful and like treat them as equals in the challenge. And I don't know if it'll be a little bit different because like some of our challenge competitors on MTV are from TV 20-ish years ago, and it's a whole different world these days than it was then. But I do wonder if like a Sarah Lacina gets protected if we have fans of the challenge on the show, because it's like, no, I want to run a final with her. I don't want to be stuck with like person A, B, or C or whatever. So just putting it out there. And then the last thing is, do you think like Ben and Sarah are serving as our like, we have to make sure that we have people who are like the 30 to like 50-year-old white Republicans like can root for? Like, is that why they're here? Because I wouldn't put it past CBS to be like, we need a couple of y'all to come on in and bring in this demographic. Just throwing it out there. Do we think we're like hitting a mark with having Sarah and Ben on for this reason?
I mean, I don't know if those people watch,
don't-
but I mean, they definitely take that box.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a particular concern of theirs, since they don't really talk about people's like political party affiliation on Survivor anyway. I know it's like implied, or it comes up in like discussions and everything like that, but like I think people are more excited about specific characters. Like there's going to be people that they root for. I think that this is a really good mix of Survivor players. So like, even it's like, I think honestly, like they'll probably be excited to see Sarah, but then also like, I think people are also going to be really excited to see a Tyson, like no matter what political party you affiliate with, or like Domenick is another person that I think is going to be a big like name that people are going to be excited to see. So I think that there are a lot of other factors that go into things like this. And I don't even know if like Ben and Sarah would be like the best representation in terms of like entertaining players to bring on the challenge for that demographic. So it's just, I understand why both Ben and Sarah were picked. I just don't think it's like particularly for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, I also just, they're from Survivor season 40. Like they both just played very recently. Yeah. So it makes sense that they, and they were like what, 4th and 5th place on that season. So yeah, they, it makes sense like that they're memorable names of people. I mean, the other two people besides Tony that were on Winners at War that went farther than them were also on the challenge recently. So, which is Natalie and Michelle. So I think that they want to bring back Winners at War people. And it's almost like, okay, who are the people that went the farthest, that were the biggest characters that season? Yeah. And they probably called Tony, and he's like, lose my number. And so if they can't get Tony, these are two people that are definitely stick out in the recent memory of people who watch CBS shows.
A true travesty is that I don't think we'll ever get Natalie Anderson again on the challenge due to her experience the first time. She absolutely hated it because they like forced them to go to I think on their season, because of COVID stuff, it was basically just like a separate building on their campus to like go out and drink. And she was like, can I stay and work out instead? And they're like, absolutely not. Like, you have to go. She hated it. She absolutely hated it. And I don't think we'll get her on another challenge season, unfortunately. All right, let's go. We've spent a lot of time on Sarah. Next alphabetically is Shan Smith, who I met a little bit, and I feel like she was a very divisive character from her season based off of what I saw on Twitter. I don't know if that's true or not, because again, this is like what I'm just reading on the Twitter streets, and Twitter is like half the reason I like hate myself for liking reality TV, because I get so sucked into dumb things people are saying. So set me straight. What are we gonna get out of Shan? What's she like? How is she socially? Can I expect a physical player out of her as well? Because my favorite female challengers are the ones that can do both. Am I going to be a Shan fan?
Shan is a star. And there really isn't any other way to put it. She was the star of Survivor 41, one of the stars of Survivor 41, I should say. But she is definitely one of the most recognizable characters from recent Survivor. She is an excellent strategist. She was on a tribe that went to tribal council a lot in the pre-merge, and she was running things top to bottom. It was incredibly impressive to see her maintain such a powerful position on a tribe that was losing a lot. And we got to really see a lot of her throughout the season. She's very straightforward and blunt, I would say. And I think that like she makes for a very smart player, but she is a villainess, I would say. She is incredibly smart, but incredibly cutthroat. And the fact that she is a pastor can make things difficult for a lot of people in that time. But also, like, let's be honest, she's a woman of color playing a very villainous game. Not always a perfect game. There are times where the flaws in her game were shown. And, you know, I think she's a very well-rounded character from what we saw, but I worry about where she's going to end socially, because she is not one to back down from standing in like her opinion and like being the one that, you know, she will defend herself. She will stand up for herself. She is not going to be backing down from a fight. So I'm not worried about Shan strategically. It's the getting along with everybody that I'm concerned about. Like, if there's anyone that's going to be calling out Sarah or Ben for their political beliefs, it's going to be Shan, in my opinion. And that's not a bad thing. I really enjoy Shan. She's great television. Decisive, but also in the best way for me. Like, she is a villainous player doing everything she can to win, in this case Survivor, and I'm sure she's bringing that energy to the challenge as well.
Yeah, Shan is definitely one of the biggest names in Survivor, like you said, coming out of, you know, her season. She's a lock to play Survivor again whenever they do another season, for sure, like top of the board. I think, I mean, you mentioned she's a pastor, or she was a pastor. I think she's not doing that anymore. I know there's a famous quote from one of the greatest preachers like that people learn about in seminary and stuff, and his name is Charles Spurgeon, and he used to pray that like God would make him a fork in the road when he came across people, basically, you know, that he would help them like either become a good, better version of themselves, or like would, you know, like continue down their path. And I just think Shan is a walking fork in the road with the people that she meets. Like, she either is like, the people are either going to like her or they're going to hate her. And so I think that there's going to be someone on the season that doesn't get along with her, which was what, you know, we saw in her season on Survivor. And with people early on her tribe a little bit, but then, you know, even later in the merge, there's definitely people that she rubbed the wrong way, and that rubbed her the wrong way. So that just seems inevitable that that's going to happen. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't think she like drinks, so it'll be interesting to see her, you know, hanging out with everybody at night, like you're saying. Another factor is she does have MS, which is like an interesting, I mean, just physical disability that she'll have to deal with. So I know that she's not the most, like, I know it's pretty mild for her, and like she is like, I think in like would say like, I think the right term is remission as far as like its effects, you know, on her body. But that's something that she hid while she was on Survivor and was able to hide, but then has spoken about more publicly since, and was going to be part of her like final jury speech if she got there. So as far as physical abilities, she was on one of the worst tribes in Survivor history, where, you know, it got whittled down from 6 starting people to 2, which almost never happens. So I mean, part of it was her strategy of voting out, you know, valuing loyal people versus like stronger people. So it wasn't just because she sucked at challenges by any means, but I think she's on this. When I look at all the other women, I look at like a lot of these guys, she's definitely on the smaller side. She's definitely not one of the more physically like you know, impressive people that's coming on this show for sure. So I think that the challenge just doesn't seem the right fit for me. I think if Shan went back there on Survivor, I could have her at the top of the leaderboard as far as people who I'd pick to win. I don't know about the challenge.
Okay, good to know. So I can maybe count on her for some drama, but I shouldn't expect her to like win 3 dailies in a row. That's what I can get out of this. Okay, good to know. Do we think, because I mean, she was on 41, so that ended, I don't even like know what month it is right now. So I'm like trying to connect it to Big Brother, this last Big Brother season. Do we know if she has any connections there? I feel like especially this Big Brother season have been like out and about and socializing with Survivor players. Like, do we know if she has any connections there?
I know. So her and Danny played the same season together, and they were in an alliance together. But Danny voted Shan out. That was part of the reason she went home. So I don't know where those two stand.
Okay.
So that might be a source of some drama.
Okay.
At least in the early days when, like, I don't know if they've addressed this type of, like, I don't know how much they've discussed that vote between the two of them. So I'm not sure about that. I know from what I know from around the time that Survivor 41 was ending, and the cookout had already made history when Survivor 41 was airing. But I know we have seen Shan in photos with like Tiffany and Azza. So I know she was at least on good terms with the cookout, and they were all very supportive of each other when Shan's season was airing. But so I don't know if anything has happened since then, but at the time that season 41 was airing and they did a lot of like the post-season shows or parties and stuff, that she was on good terms with the cookout and they were all very supportive of each other.
Yeah, I thought I remembered seeing her in pictures with people from that past season Big Brother, because in addition to the cookout, you also have Derek, who was on that season. So like you got and I think Alyssa. So there's like 6 people from the last season of Big Brother that, I mean, maybe I'm wondering if she's someone who deviates from a show by show alliance and like mixes the waters a little bit based off of what you're saying in terms of her being cutthroat and the social strategy and all that. I would love to see it. So I'm excited for her. If she's not going to be the beast, then bring me the drama, bring me the noise. That's what I'm here for. The last woman we will talk about tonight is someone I'm super excited to hear about from you guys, because I know of her, but I feel like you guys can give me the in-depth on just how amazing this woman is. It's Tasha Fox. So I can tell what Gia, just go, because that smile just is like, you've been waiting for this.
I love Tasha. She was my favorite in Cagayan. She was such a star. Challenge Beast in Cagayan. I believe she won 3 immunities in a row before she was voted out, but
yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so such a beast, such a star, a light on Cagayan for me. And she returned for Survivor Cambodia, the Second Chances season, and she made it to Final Tribal Council. She tied for second place with Spencer, and lost to Jeremy Collins. But I love Tasha. She has played a very consistent game in the 2 seasons that she was in on Survivor. She ran pre-merge and like she had some very solid alliances set up. And I'm a little disappointed that the edit kind of let her fade to the background once merge started and made some more room for some other players in that season, particularly the other 2 members that made the final tribal council. So I'm sad that we didn't get more of Tasha in Cambodia, because I think she was a very effective, efficient player. While she did not get any votes, I think that was more a sentiment to how strong of a game Jeremy played versus what Tasha did or didn't do in her season. So I'm a big fan of Tasha, and I'm so glad that we are seeing her come back on another show. I'm glad that she was in CBS's mind when they were casting this show, because this is someone I could see play a million times, and a million times I would be watching, like, and I would be rooting for her every single time. Like she is a star. She was made for competitive shows.
Definitely. Yeah, no, Tasha, of all the Survivor players, she's the person who has, it's been the longest since we've seen her on TV of all these people. And yet it makes a lot of sense that she's on this show, because she is, very, very like clearly physically gifted as far as challenges go. Like on her original season with Kagayan, like Gia mentioned, she ran it. She was definitely the comp beast of that season. And then she played second chances, but I mean, again, the level of play was so high there. She was going up against people like, Joe, who I'm glad is not on the challenge and not on our screens anymore. But she's definitely somebody who it just makes a lot of sense why she's on this show, even if we haven't seen her on TV in, I don't know, 5 years. So it's been a while since we've seen her. So I'm, again, a little worried about her age getting to her. I'm hoping that she's as impressive as she was back in the day. But Tasha's also somebody who is extremely like level-headed. Nobody I've ever heard say that they didn't like her for any reason. She seems like people really just really enjoyed like being with out on the island. And Survivor's a show, that forces you to be hungry and grumpy all day. So again, it's not the alcohol that gets people in conflict, it's the lack of food. Tasha's not somebody who people like, came away with like bad feelings about in either of her 2 seasons. The other thing that comes to mind is that she was kind of like the Jim Halpert of her season in Cagayan, in that she seemed like the one sane person on that entire cast, where she's just kind of looking at the camera. I mean, metaphorically, just like, what is going on here? Like, she was on one of the most like dysfunctional tribes of all time. Like, if you made a list of dysfunctional tribes, the Brains tribe from Cagayan would be, definitely in the conversation there, top tier dysfunction. And she was definitely the one person that like helped like them move through their dysfunction into like, then the merge. And then you're dealing with Tony, and you're still dealing with Cass, and you're still dealing with, again, people that are acting irrational. And I feel like she made the best that she could have in that seain, and the cards weren't dealt, to her. But I just think that she's a very, very, very reasonable, rational person. And I also love Tasha a lot. And I think that she is a no-brainer, except for, again, she's kind of old. So that's just like my worry is like,
I just Googled her age. Do either of you know how old she is without looking?
I'll say, I'm trying to think, when did Cambodia air? It was like, it was like
2016.
I'll say she's like in her late 30s.
Okay. Josh, where are you at?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think she's older than that. I think she's like 45, 46.
46.
Oh my god.
You keep cheating, Josh. You're 2 for 2. You're 2 for 2.
She's 46.
She's 46.
She does not look. She has not aged a day since Cagayan. Let's be real. But and she ate her cat photo. So, queen.
Yeah, I mean, Cagayan is almost 10 years ago now. So I was thinking in my brain, like, she's like 35. Okay, so add 10 years.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that number when I Googled it. Wow. That was a high number there. Yeah, I'm excited for her. I'm excited to see how she does. So, I'm like excited based off of your excitement as well, which just like makes me happy. I do wonder in terms of like endurance, sometimes they do a lot of running comps on these things, and so I wonder how she'll be there. I feel like she's a bit more of like a short-term like power player versus maybe like a long-term running, but anybody can surprise me. So last but not least in our assessment tonight is at least who I'm most excited to have in confessionals is Tyson Apostol, because he's so funny. He is the funniest. His dry sense of humor, I absolutely love it. He's also my biggest podcast competition because he has a podcast on The Ringer covering the challenge. So Tyson, you're now my enemy. I'm just kidding. But I'm excited to see him here. Josh, where are you at with Tyson's potential of being an all-star challenger?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of sound like a broken record here, but he is old, so that's my biggest worry for Tyson. If it was peak Tyson 10, 15 years ago, he would be up there because he was a professional cyclist. So physicality wise, like he's got the endurance factor like you're talking about. I think he swam in college as well, had a scholarship, if I'm not mistaken. And so I know that he is good in the water regardless of that fact or not. But he's really, really athletic. And the one season that he won, I think partly he won because he like injured his shoulder that season. And so people like became less worried about him. And so he kind of like played it up too. And then by the end, he kind of like came out and like won a couple challenges that were key, I believe, down the stretch, and won that season. But if he hadn't hurt his shoulder, I think everybody would have been looking at him as like, you know, the guy that like we need to be worried about challenge wise. And so he kind of like, again, kind of played up his injury famously to make himself seem less threatening. And so I don't know if anybody's ever done that in the challenge. Could be some emergent strategy there again from Tyson. But he's just, I mean, he's a pickleball influencer. He is he's a great character, top tier character in Survivor history, no question.
I mean, Josh said it best. Like, he is one of the Survivor greats, and if he doesn't last long, he's at least going to entertain us for the time he's there. One of the kings of confessionals, I will say, and just a very entertaining player. He has one of the best arcs, in my opinion, in terms of like multi-season Survivor returnees. So I really enjoy Tyson as a player. I think almost everyone's excited to see Tyson on TV again. Like, this is one of those people that people are going to know. Survivor fans are going to know, whether you're casual or a super fan, you're going to be excited because it's Tyson, and you expect him to do something, bring something new and fresh and enjoyable to the season. Even if he doesn't win, you're going to laugh your ass off while he's there. So I'm very excited to see Tyson, as everyone else is. You know, I am one of the people. I'm very excited to see Tyson back. Honestly, I'm not that worried about his age. I think he's still relatively stays in shape, remains very active. He won the challenge to return back to the Edge of Extinction from Edge of Extinction. And I know that was a bit of an older cast, but there were no slouches on that season as well. So I think Tyson is, you know, a very capable player, and this is someone to watch out for. Honestly, they're probably really stupid if they don't target him right away.
Yeah. He is one of 3 winners, Survivor winners, and then we have at least the winner of this last season of Big Brother as well. So there's 4 people who have won the show that they're on. I don't know about The Amazing Race. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
Oh, no, actually, I lied. James is a winner.
Okay, so we have 5 winners out of a cast of 28. Do we foresee, especially within this little Survivor group, do we think like Ben, Sarah, Tyson kind of like buddy up and protect each other in ways? Because like, hey, not only are we in like a big group that we could like people could come at us for that, but also like we've won our show, we've made our money. Do you think that they use that as a reason to align with each other?
It's a good question. I think probably. I mean, the fact that they're familiar with each other just goes so far. I mean, as far as just having a baseline of trust or understanding. But I think Tyson's such a troll. Like, Tyson will not care about like, you know, sending someone to the elimination challenge or whatever. Like, I know you kept mentioning this before, of somebody who's there for their like appearance check or whatever. And I think Tyson will just be having fun. Like he said in Winners at War, if he had won a reward challenge, he knew that he wasn't going to win that season, even though he won his way back. He said he would have asked Jeff if he could not bring anybody. Usually you get to bring like 1 or 2 people. He said he was going to try to make it a Survivor first, to just, hey, can I just take this one by myself? You know, it just like, you know, and so I just think like that kind of stuff is just, I think he's just going to have fun with the challenge. So I don't think he's going to take it too seriously. I think he'll try really hard, but I just also think like he'll, you know, so I don't know if he really likes Ben or Sarah very much. I get the feeling that he probably doesn't. And I mean, I think he can use those relationships that he already has from the game he just played a year ago to his advantage, but I don't think he's really interested in like, you know, ride or die with them to the end.
I wouldn't be surprised at really anything that Tyson pulls off in this season. I think he will try to pull off all the stops he can to just get far at the very least. But I think he is also probably one of the most well-connected Survivor players with all of the podcasts that he does. I think that he's like very well-connected to the Survivor community.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a very powerful duo on the season that he won with the Coconut Bandits, him and Jervis, which was one of the most successful duos of all time. I'm a big fan of the Coconut Bandits. Honestly, I remember Danny was on his podcast recently, so that might be the duo to watch, in my opinion, in terms of like Survivor pairs that we are looking for. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyson had a pre-existing connection with Sarah and Ben, since they did compete on a fairly recent season together. But if we're looking at like potential duos in the game, which Tyson is really good at establishing, I would say it's either him and Domenick or him and Danny. Those would probably be the pairs that I would be keeping an eye out for.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is Danny funny? Because a Domenick Tyson duo would just kill me in terms of the humor that I'm looking for out of the show.
I feel like he would be more, I think Danny's like a very humorous guy. I think he would be more like, I could see similar dynamics as like him and Jervis, because I feel like he has that very, like, Jervis was like a very happy-go-lucky guy. Like, I think Danny's probably a little more strategic than what we, like, he has a little bit more of a strategic edge over Jervis, and like the way that Jervis wasn't able to have a good opportunity to get rid of Tyson. And I don't know if like Tyson would have that same hold on someone the second time around. Because like, and I'm a huge Jervis fan, but like with the Redemption Island in play and a bunch of other things that happened during that season, Jervis was kind of in a lose-lose situation with never really having an opportunity to get rid of Tyson and then also get to the end. But he's a very strategic player, whereas Danny, I feel like, is also incredibly likable and also very like strategically minded and probably has the physical up on most of these players, Tyson included. So I don't know if Tyson will have that same hold on the game that if he was in a duo with like Danny, for instance, that would still be an issue. I would love to see a Danny Tyson duo or a Danny Domenick duo. I feel like Tyson Domenick duo. I think either of those would be hilarious.
Perfect. That's what I'm here for.
Tyson's he's just so chill. I feel like Danny and him will be chill together. Like, again, we're talking about like, you're talking about those off nights or whatever when people are drinking and stuff. I could just imagine him and Danny, whatever, just chilling in the corner, like, playing like, finger football on the table or something as everything else goes on around them. Like, they're just not going to be the centers of drama at all, for this kind of show.
And the Survivor players are a lot of like, I guess like older in terms of like what we normally get from like the challenge contestants, CT excluded. But I don't know how many of them are really going to be partiers. Like a lot of them are married. Actually, I think most of the Survivor players are married versus some of the other casts, which has some more single or at least like not married individuals in there. A lot of them have kids. So I just don't know if this is like the same party energy that we would get from the challenge, like the MTV's The Challenge.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the survivors are listening and saying challenge accepted. They're just going to throw down, just going to be shit-faced on TV. No. Watch, they like probably like they don't even do the drinking, and then like you guys watch and are like, what the hell? Kari talked about this like 8 times and it didn't happen once. That's a staple in the challenge. So
I don't think Tyson drinks either. So I think he's another Survivor player that doesn't even drink.
I'm not sure what to expect from the Survivor crowd. Just like thinking about what we get from MTV's The Challenge. I don't know how the Survivor players will measure up with that, because I don't think a lot of them are in that same mindset as like what we get from the MTV cast.
Well, the All-Stars Challenge, like they're all up there in age and they have these parties. No one is like shit face though, but they like have theme parties and stuff, and it's fun to watch. But I guess we'll see. Hopefully they do include that like part of the challenge, because like old school challenge fans will tell you the best episodes are like you get your little introduction, you have the daily challenge, you have the night out, and then you have like the strategizing and then the elimination. Like that is quality challenge episode there. There was a while where they deviated from it and a lot of us were very upset. Thankfully, they've kind of reined it back in, but I'm hoping they bring that same type of thing here. I am like interested to see just like how much of typical challenge gameplay ends up in this challenge, especially when it's so heavily populated by people who have played very socially strategic games. So I'm definitely interested in it. And my last question for you both, although I think we might have gotten at least one of these answers from Josh already. So Josh, I'll start with you. If I'm assuming that they're going to do it right, and there's going to be one male winner and one female winner, and each will get $500,000. If you are picking from the Survivor cast, no one else exists. They just pagong. Is that the right terminology, Gia? Did I do it right? If they pagong the rest of the shows?
Yeah, pagong. Yep.
Thank you.
You're speaking our language.
Dude, my like greatest talent and also greatest weakness, as especially someone who podcasts a lot now, is like besides the challenge, any TV show I watch, like once I've watched a season, I have no recollection of it whatsoever. Like, did I even watch this? So the fact that I was able to pull that name out on command, I'm gonna have an ice cream after this. I was gonna have one regardless because it's fucking hot here, but now I've earned my ice cream, my treat. So anyway, if you had to pick from just the Survivor cast, who are you choosing for your male winner and your female winner? Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I think Danny would still be my top pick. Highest confidence pick, I would say Danny. And then I think I'll go Desi. I don't know. The women, it's hard. I think I want to pick Tasha, to be honest. But again, it's been the Tasha in my mind is the Tasha from 5 years ago. And now she's in her mid 40s, right? And I saw her play Survivor when she was in her late 30s and more in her, prime physically. So if this was 5 years ago, Tasha, hands down, zero question. But I think I'll go with Desi just because she is I just think is somebody who's very, physically impressive and somebody who I have no doubts will be, good on the show.
Gia, I'm going to ask you a different question, even though just ignore what I just said to you. So who do you think is going to be the best character to watch, both male and female, from this? Now, mind you, us challenge fans, we want someone who's going to do well. They don't have to be the best physically, but we don't need to see you like dragging ass and quitting. We don't appreciate that in a challenger. We want someone who is going to cause a little bit of drama, stick up for themselves, and we also want someone who's going to strategize and not be afraid to, we appreciate loyalty, but we're also not mad when we see some shit go down, because we've seen some like fucking loyalty on the challenge. One dude named Nelson went into the elimination to give his best friend Kari a better chance to win the money because Corey's girlfriend just had a baby. He was like, I'm gonna go in for you instead. Like, we've seen that level of loyalty, but also we've seen some of the biggest backstabs in the world, like Johnny Bananas keeping the money at the end of the show when it's like they're a pair, they made it together, there's $1 million or whatever. Actually, then it was probably 500,000 and they had to split it, but the person with the better like performance in the final, which was Johnny Bananas, he got to choose, do you split the money or do you take all of your partner's money? He took his partner's money. Like, we've seen backstabbing, we've seen loyalty to its fullest. Like, we want characters who are going to bring that. Who do you think of our Survivor cast is going to bring that?
I feel like in terms of entertainment, there's really no contest. It's Shan and Tyson for
Okay.
male and female for like who we think are going to be the most entertaining and like hit all those boxes that you mentioned.
Mhm.
I feel like without question, Tyson and Shan are it for in terms of like strategy, entertainment, social game, calling people out when they want to, Tyson trolling people. Like that's not even a question. The players that I'm most excited to see personally from this Survivor cast, definitely Danny and Tasha. I feel like those are the two that I'm just like very excited to see. I expect to be entertained the most by Shan and Tyson though.
I appreciate all these answers.
Yeah.
I hope that you two enjoy the season as much as I've enjoyed the challenge, and it just makes you fall in love with it, and then you're like, I'm gonna go back and watch every single challenge season I ever can. But if it doesn't, that's okay too, I guess. That's fine. But yeah, I think that is a great overall assessment of who we're getting from Survivor. So
Yeah.
we have 3 more shows that we're going to cover coming up. We have Big Brother will be next, and then it will be Love Island, and then we'll end it with The Amazing Race. And we're purposely ending with The Amazing Race because there's not a lot of people to talk about, and the people I have coming on that show are going to be people that can talk about like overall challenge or like longtime challenge fans as well. So we have a lot of preseason coverage coming. So if this interests you, just hold tight. You'll get 3 more episodes before July 6th. But before we plug anything else, I want you two to plug what you're doing on the internet. So oh gosh, Josh, you don't have your thing in your little banner. Are you Josh Kettles on Twitter?
I am Josh Kettles on Twitter, so you
Okay.
can find me easily that way.
There we go. So go ahead, Josh. Tell them where to follow you, and we know you have your Survivor podcast as well. Plug anything else that you're doing on the internet these days.
Yeah. So my Twitter is at Josh Kettles. You can pretty much find anything I'm doing there. Any podcast coming up, I'll of course post it there. My Survivor channel is at joshtakes.com. So you can go there. But I have a couple other podcasts with silent podcasts coming up. So I think as long as you're subscribed, you'll see me in your feed.
Ooh. What else are you doing? Are you allowed to say? Is that legal or no?
It's in the works.
It's in the works. Okay. It's a whip. Work in progress. Gia, do you not have a banner either? Hold
I have
on.
a banner.
Well, I'm typing a new one for you.
I didn't like make a banner. Sorry. I have like my little tag.
Gotcha. Well, I have a
right
banner
there.
for you now. I just
Thank
clicked
you.
something very wrong.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize we had like a whole section of
Oh, yes,
banners.
we do. There we go. For the people watching, it's there. Because like not to call out one of my favorite co-hosts, Josie, but she like for the first 3 or 4 episodes of our circle coverage was like spelling her thing wrong, and I checked like multiple times to make sure I was typing it right, like from Twitter. And so finally when she spelled it right, I was like, okay, do you know like the last 3 episodes you've been forgetting the I in your name? So I take these banners seriously. I try to double check my work, but go ahead, Gia. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Where can people find you online? What are you doing online these days? Where can we find all of your content?
Oh my God, I have so much
I know. Tell us everything.
Okay, so like you can follow me for all my reality TV shenanigans at Classically Gia. That is just where I tweet all my reality TV nonsense. As always, I tell people you gotta follow the Survivor Diversity campaign at Serve Diversity. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up. Survivor 43 cast was like the rumored cast was leaked, so we are getting ready for a new season. But also, Survivor South Africa is starting all of their preseason press now. And for my part, I am doing a journey through time with all of the past seasons on Inside Survivor. So my first article on the very first season of Survivor South Africa, Survivor South Africa Panama, is up, and I have all the other seasons coming your way shortly. I'm very excited about this project, so keep an eye out for what Inside Survivor has going on soon, and I'm very excited about the Survivor South Africa preseason press on Silent Podcast. I am the host of I Don't Know About That, which is our Survivor coverage, and we have some really fun special episodes coming up now in the Survivor off season. So keep an eye out for that right on the Silent Podcast Network.
Anything else? We need to do our own like preseason Gia assessment of all of the content she brings from the Survivor. Like we need like a wiki of this shit so we can go and look and find it.
I'm honestly so blessed that I have so many people that first of all like what I have to say, but also have all these ideas for like just random things to cover when Survivor is not on the air, which is a very sad time. But I'm very excited for some of our Survivor off-season coverage. We have a really fun episode coming your way within the next couple days, so that's going to be really fun.
Awesome. And for me, I am KGD26 on all of the platforms. The most important one is Venmo. Send me money. And then in terms of Silent Podcasts, you can find me doing a ton of things. So I am not like Gia where I specialize in one thing. I like to spread myself thin and not know a lot about anything, just a little about a bunch of things. And that's why just finished up Circle coverage. Check out the interview with Alex and Nikki. Alex played Nathan this season, and we had his girlfriend on with him. And it was just a really fun interview to talk to someone who was on the show. And he was like really the only strategic player. So it was like cool to get his insight. I podcast weekly with Katie on Silent Podcast on a show called The Cool Water Show, where we talk about Real Housewives every week. So if you love drama, come check that out. And obviously TJ Hates Quitters, where we are covering the All-Stars Challenge, Challenge All-Stars Season 3. We're about a little over halfway done with that. We have different guests every week. That's just a lot of fun. We just put up our episode from this week yesterday, and then you're going to get the content early this week. We're going to record, whatever it is, tomorrow. So expect that soon. And then last but not least, we did just finish our coverage of the Real World Homecoming New Orleans, and Katie and I were lucky enough to interview Melissa Beck, who is the star, the icon, the queen of that show. She is amazing. She slid in our DMs and was like, let me be on your podcast. And we were like, hell fucking yeah. And it was a really good interview, like more of a conversation. She's just so cool. So like, even if you're not a Real World fan, you haven't watched it, she does provide a lot of insight on just like the effects of being on reality TV 20-ish years ago, where she explains how like her group really missed a lot of trains. Like it was too soon to really like monetize being on reality TV, like Instagram influencers and all this stuff. And just like they were famous but poor and all this. I don't know. It's just so cool. Like listen to it. She talks a little Real Housewives. She talks about her opinion on Chance the Rapper. Like there's a ton. So it's just a really cool interview. I would love if you listen to it because we had such a good time. So yeah, that's all that. I've got a little bit of a project coming up soon. You might see these two on it later. There's the closest I've come to announcing it. I'm so close to announcing it. But yeah, anyway, we do a ton of stuff here. We are expanding by the second. We have coverage of a whole ton of stuff. So like we just started up our Total Drama Island. We've got off-season Survivor. We've got upcoming Big Brother. We've got the challenge in multiple forms. We've got Obi-Wan. We've got a ton of things. So like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all the stuff you're supposed to do when you like someone. So in conclusion, follow us on YouTube, on Twitch. Find us by searching Silent Podcast. Twitter, we're silent_podcast. We can be found on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you give a 5-star review, rate us. If it is less than 5, wait until you hear an episode that you think is worth 5 stars and rate us then. If it's less than 5, we don't want it. Give it to someone else. But that is it. So thank you for listening. This is the first of 4 of these. Thank you, Gia. Thank you, Josh, for bringing your Survivor expertise. And we will be back next week with Big Brother, the Big Brother cast on the Challenge USA. So until next time, enjoy whatever time of day it is you're listening to this. Bye.